Good afternoon, everyone. This winter storm is going to drive your food price through the roof. You got the ice and the sleet moving through the wind farms. We'll see how our power generation splits the country in half and which places are going to go into blackout first. Please prepare yourselves. And also prepare yourselves for higher food prices. Cattle futures hitting new record highs as polar blasts set to hit the nation's beef production areas. We just went to a new record high for ground beef price, $5.62 per pound, and even higher with organic ground beef at $10 or more. That's insane on that price, truly. Know your local farmer. Florida citrus facing the polar vortex, lowest in 100 years. That was already the tallied production for this year. They're going to lose a lot more oranges, so it's going to go below this. It is 15 times less oranges than it was at the peak when they were setting records for record production. 15 times lower. 10 million boxes approximately. And if we look at the orange chart, it just shows you where it is going and the availability for this type of fruit. And going through the roof, let's talk about sleet and freezing rain sticking to your roof here. Total in inches, and you can see anywhere from 1/10 of an inch all the way to an inch. Road travel stops at that point. Nature's going to win on this one. And where we see that darkest of sort of brick color, the wind farms are there. And if we extend this out into freezing rain, it's difficult to treat a wind turbine. Yeah, you can put salt on the roads, but as we've seen before, extreme cold, still air, or an enormous amount of ice on the lines or the wind turbines, our power grid is going to struggle with this one. And whatever joker put this one together from AccuWeather, 1,500-mile long winter storm, that whole area, the lines, transmission lines are in danger, as well as the production sources, especially in the renewables category. So I'm going to bring you right over here to the Interactive Energy Atlas. I linked this in the description box below, and you can choose by type of, and you can isolate out the generation sources. Total generation here, and the light blue is natural gas, the darker blue is wind, the yellow is solar, and you can go down through biomass and coal and nuclear, get a whole gamut of it. You can isolate those. So if we look across, that band of ice is going to pretty much take down any of the wind generation capacity. Now the 6th to the 10th, we're going to get the ice and the sleet, freezing rain. Transmission lines are going to go down, as always. That's just part of it. It happens every time. I can't remember any time that there was massive freezing rain events where power didn't go out. So, I mean, that's just a given. You need to get prepared for that. But it's the first time we've really, had all this extra wind and solar capacity built into the grid in such a tremendous situation. This is record-setting. And then we're going to get into the truly historic record-setting cold, 11th, 12th, 13th, and then the still air will come in, and we won't get very much capacity. So looking at the freezing rain line, you have to wonder, okay, Mid-Intercontinental, TVA, like where's that going to split? PJM, we're going to go all the way to the coast, and a lot of times they're rerouting power from north to south usually, but it looks like there's going to be a cut in the transmission along that north-south route there. And specifically, I isolated out the wind generation capacity here. That is going to be covered in ice, and you can see the approximate accumulations of freezing rain. That's going to stop a lot of wind generation, and we're going to have record demand because of the record cold polar vortex. Now that Trump will return to the White House, it's time to consider your retirement and portfolio. The Wall Street Journal said gold will outperform stocks in 2025. Since 2022, gold has surged 40% after the U.S. seized Russia's assets. That was a wake-up call for central banks around the globe to diversify their reserves away from the dollar and into gold. At the same time, Goldman Sachs said Trump's presidency will light a fire under gold, pushing it to $3,150 an ounce. Call the proud Americans of the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. And the Patriot Gold Group has the No Fee for Life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold or silver. No Fee for Life IRA on qualifying rollovers. Give them a call, 888-546-7020 for your free investor guide today. And now on with the video. And moving forward, you can see a little bit about total ice accumulations. That's a lot. That center brick color, that is stopping our civilization wherever that thing moves over. And then if we start using that as the point and extend out to the East Coast, we get, well, over to D.C., Baltimore. Inauguration's going on. They're going to pull an enormous amount of power. All hands on deck in D.C. We're coming into the inauguration. We're transitioning government. Everybody's in the offices. Everybody's at their homes. They're going to draw far more power than normal during this time. They get first. Just leave it that way. They just get first priority over power, period. And then if we come into what had happened to the grid prior to the Texas blackout, the Midwest and Central regions were struggling the most. The mid-continent areas there, and higher than expected power demand was brought on by cold weather every single time that tripped the grid into rolling blackouts. Well, let's see on this chart here. The coldest temperatures, 30 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, so that is inbound. So if that is an indication of cold weather turns into rolling brownouts or blackouts, and we got the freezing rain preceding this, is going to be a whole bunch of trouble. So in the reports, they've isolated this area here. This is the mid-continent, intercontinental, the red there, even Gulf Coast down at the bottom. Southeast U.S., high-risk area. Shortfalls may occur at normal peak conditions. Well, I assure you, we are not going into a normal situation. We are going into a Six Sigma event situation here. So if you're looking along that line from east to west, it cuts directly through this high-risk area. And then how does the cascade move from there is the question. Now, also in the report, they were saying, all right, we need to get more robust grid. We need to bring all this new capacity. And you can see the capacity for ERCOT. That's Texas, with blackout last time. We got MISO, the red danger zone there. And PJM, that's a little bit closer in for, about Ohio Valley moving east. Green and yellow, solar and wind. This is going to struggle in the ice and the heavy snowfalls. So that extra capacity, 4% for wind and 4% for solar, you're talking about 8% of total capacity is probably going to go offline or close to it. Now, case in point here, Missouri bringing on 500 megawatts of new solar. Nice. Renewables there for you, right in the middle of where the ice storms are going to hit. Okay, maybe it'll melt off. And I would imagine they're going to do preventative and shut some of these areas down. And in my opinion, these are the areas that are going to go down first, and we're going to get that cut across the entire United States. It's running through multiple power providers with ice on the transmission lines. It's going to split that north-south normal flow as electricity gets moved around the country. Some of these areas are just going to completely black out, and they're going to be requiring power from other destinations, but everybody's going to be wanting more power because we're coming into record cold conditions. Arctic, ridiculously cold. We just haven't seen this or tested our grid with renewables in such a high demand situation where those power sources are then affected and taken offline by the very storms that are creating the record demand on the grid. You get into this feedback loop. It's the first time we're ever going to experience it, so I guess we'll do a lessons learned on this one and see how it works. But long story short, please get ready for this. You still have just a few hours or a day to get out and get some food. You're not going to get supermarket deliveries during this time. A lot of people won't even be able to make it into work, let alone the drivers. And I mean, you've been in high wind, blizzard conditions before if you live in the north. The salt trucks are running up and down the roads. They're effective to a point, but at some point you're like, where are they? Have they even been here? Because it's coming in so fast that it overwhelms what we can do. It'll take a couple of days of catch up to get there at least. But if your power's off for 2 or 3 days, do you have a plan? And then we start to get into the robust cold, shall we call it, the first wave. The second wave is directly north of there. You can see it. It's rolling straight down. This first wave is like 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit above zero. And then all that, what you see coming over the border there is well sub-zero temperatures, 30 degrees Fahrenheit, below zero, sub-zero. And this will bring us out through the 9th of January. But you can see a lot of single digits there. A lot of negatives too. I see minus 13 degrees below zero there. So a lot of draw is going to be happening at the same time. That still wind will be there. windmills will be affected, and we're going to have record demand pulling in, but then we got the snow on top of that, so other sources would be affected. And you're looking at how much weight on after the ice comes on the lines, and then we get the snow, and it's a nasty mix. We just haven't really seen it. Zooming in, this line is going to cut the transmission capacity from the United States literally in half. So I'm sure each region will just start spinning off in its own capacity and hope they have enough. Somebody's going to have to go without during this time. And who is it, and which grids are going to go down first is the question. And that line of ice and snow intersects and dissects 4 major grid operators here. So if their main trunk lines are cut, or they do go into rolling blackouts, they're not going to be able to deliver power from the southeast U.S. because they're going to be at record demand due to the cold. And then we swing over into, again, that interactive map, which I linked before. You can isolate your different generation capacity. This one happens to be wind. And then we're going to get this still wind event, or called a wind drought. This is what tripped off the grid and put Texas into a blackout. No wind power, so there was no way for them to bring in. And that just started cascading failures across the entire system. Are we repeating a cycle again here? And this thing is going to trek to the east. And as it moves even more east, directly below Lake Michigan there, you're going to start to see there's another huge bevy of wind power that might not be available for, generation, because we're in a still wind event. Now, Mid-Intercontinental here, I linked that website before. You can do the analysis yourself. Everything's live time. So you can see the available capacity with the demand. Once that exceeds and that demand rolls up above and those 2 lines touch, they're going to start blacking people out. Once they roll above it at a certain percentage, because usually they'll buy emergency power from somewhere else, but if everybody else is stretched into record demand and there's 0 extra power megawatts to be bought and moved around, well, then they're going to start reducing it. They're going to use smart meters first, and then they're just straight up going to black people out. They'll give you a warning on your phone, usually about 30 minutes before, telling you to, the heat's too hot. Please turn down your thermostats to 68 or 65 or whatever. When you get that message, you're about to go into a blackout. ERCOT, also I linked below, real time on available capacity on the demand. Okay, once those lines touch, the lower line and the upper line touch, you're at that blackout point. Now the extensive cold, January 3rd through the 12th, yeah, but that's only the first pulses. And then there's an additional pulse coming after that on the 19th, which is even colder than all this. So we'll see where that comes in. So again, I would direct your attention to that ice and snow line going right through 4 or 5 subregions. 2025 starting out with a bang. And I get it. Please get ready. Until next time, hope you got something out of the video. All the links are in the description box below, so you can do more of your own research and watch those power fluctuations in real time and get a better gauge. You'll get a 30-minute head start in front of everybody else by watching that. Best of luck to you. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.